this can use mind control to create an army of zombies or robots to undermine the government and law enforcement. That's the report from the DA's office. Your comment, please?
All right. My comment to that is that in the 4 years that I have seen Hare Krishnas either in their temple or in my home, I haven't seen any mind control. I haven't seen any hypnosis or any of those other things that the district attorney has alleged.
This is a typical Krishna religious service, and they are held 5 times a day, 7 days a week. The first at 4:30 in the morning, and the last at 8:45 at night. I am told everybody is welcome to take part or just be an observer. Dr. Lewis, Channel 7, Eyewitness News at the Krishna Temple on West 55th Street.
How energetic? Very energetic. And why not? Why shouldn't it be? What's wrong with that? What's wrong there? Why shouldn't it be energetic? Everyone is preaching about something. Everyone is preaching about something. Someone is preaching smoke cigarettes, drink Johnny Walker Red, you know, have as much illicit sex as you can. Everyone is preaching. Why can't we preach?
Mr. Corrins.
So we had just as much right to preach as anyone else.
Mr. Corrins, before the U.S. District Attorney of Queens says he's looking into your finances.
Not at all. We welcome any inspection by any district attorney, by any committee, by any citizen. Our activities are completely open. Our temples are open like that.
When 2 leaders of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness were recently indicted for brainwashing young people, they issued this statement.
We deny that any of them has ever been brainwashed or attempted to brainwash anyone else. We find this accusation to be completely false, if not absurd.
A little while later, we'll hear from another representative of Hare Krishna, but with me now is a father, Mr. Bert Wallerstein, whose daughter spent 2 years living in a Krishna temple. And we just saw a little bit of that film at the beginning where the spokesman for the Krishna organization said that any reports of brainwashing is absolutely absurd. What do you think of that? And where's your daughter? Do you believe she was brainwashed?
Not only do I believe it, she's admitted to it once she was relieved of this pressure and deprogrammed.
Well, let's start at the beginning and talk a little bit about how she got involved in it and what happened. Can we go back?
Surely. She was at the age, I suppose, when most children are looking for their adulthood or looking for themselves, whatever, identity,
right.
Yes.
About what age?
She was 20 at the time.
20.
She had finished 2 years of college.
Right.
And decided that she was going to seek this identity. She left home for the first time with our blessing because we felt this is what she wanted.
Where did she go?
She went down to Florida. She was living there with a girl and doing odd jobs, just trying to get something, whatever she was looking for, finding it.
She ran into these people down there?
Well, yes, I assume so. I never really pushed her to find out exactly where she got the initial interest. She came home a couple of months after being in Florida.
Did you recognize a change?
Well, it was not recognizable, really. She had not been in the cult as yet. She was merely taking some sort of instructions, which we found out later. The only reason we knew anything was particularly wrong, we found a book that she had with us, with her, that she was reading.
What happened after she got deeply involved in it? What signs did you see then?
Well, when she left home again, she went north and went to Michigan. And then, at that point, she told us by letter what she was doing. We corresponded. She called us collect on occasions. Throughout the 2-year period of time, we only saw her once. She came home one time.
What changes did you notice then?
Well, the gradual changes were in her writing and in her speech patterns when we did talk. Instead of being the worldly woman that she had started to become, her whole outlook and her whole complexion became narrowed. And everything she said was prefaced with her God and the Krishna and the service that she was doing, which we subsequently found out was going out and collecting money.
She went out and collected money. Did they send her out to
to huckster or hawk?
But we didn't know this at the time. We found out subsequently. But she went out and sold candy and begged money and flowers they sold and any excuse. She told us that she would tell people that she was collecting money for drug programs.
Did you feel that she was pressured? I mean, did you feel that there was any pressure about seeing you as her parents?
Oh, we no longer were the same parents to her, and she let us know that.
She didn't want to see you? Or?
No, she didn't want to see us. She kept the correspondence. She wrote to us. She asked for money. She asked for clothing. She wrote to her grandparents and asked them for money.
Well, what did she do with the money when she...
We didn't send it to her. We already knew not to send her any money.
Because they turned it over to the organization.
She had money with her when she went into the organization she had earned, and she turned that over to them.
Of course, you would say as a parent when this happens that there's nothing really wrong with a child talking about God. But if you notice different behavior patterns and a different set of communication patterns where it once was warm and friendly towards you and then suddenly it wasn't, I would imagine you would be concerned. Were there any other things that bothered you about her personality?
Well, did I get back to the feeling of God? There's nothing wrong with that. And we all can use that.
Right.
However, it was not just God in the sense that we knew it. It was God as an object, as a flower, as a plant, as an idol, which is completely foreign to everything we ever knew. And it was not the same God. And it was not the same service.
Did you have a feeling ever of just letting her go and accept what she wanted to accept?
We went through many feelings. We, at one time, for a while, we figured she was past the age where we could say to her, Robin, come home.
At 20, it's difficult.
You can't. And we just let it ride and kept in touch and felt that eventually that she would grow out of this. We felt that at that point we didn't know anything about mind control or brainwashing or...
How did you get her out?
Well, she came home one time last year and we saw for firsthand what had happened to our daughter. A beautiful child became not ugly, but hard to look at. Her face was painted in a very peculiar manner. Her hair was drawn back. She wore saris. Everything that was completely alien.
At least it was alien to you.
Alien to us and alien to everything.
Did you get a chance to get help while she was home?
No, she went back. In fact, it was very difficult for me to communicate with her. My wife did. I didn't. I looked at her and I couldn't do anything more than that. And then we agonized for the next year on. It got worse and worse. Her letters became more infantile. And we decided something had to be done. She was not getting out of this. But at the same time, we had no one to tell us what was going on.
And I'd like to pick up right at that point when we come back after this word.
Surely.
With me now are Galen Kelly, a private investigator who has been active in deprogramming, Krishna, and moon converts, and David Lieberman, a member of the Hare Krishna Society, whose initiating name, I guess, or the name they've given you in the society is Amarinda. And we'll be along talking to both of you in just a minute, but we're right in the middle of a very moving story because we've left Mr. Wallerstein with his daughter just at home at this point after 2 years where she was in a Krishna, what do you call it, a camp or a commune?
It's a temple, they call it.
A temple. And now you have somehow gotten her home. And how did you get her out of the organization?
Well, she subsequently went back, and then in the interim we read an article of a young fellow in Long Island who was rescued from the Krishna. We spoke to their parents, and they informed us of an organization of people that might help. And through them, we got someone to deprogram my daughter, and we got her home by saying to her we would give her medical treatment and dental treatment that she needed. She came home. We subsequently had her deprogrammed in very short order, and found out that when we did have her deprogrammed, that she had wanted to leave on her own, but could not. And this is when
she did feel then that she was brainwashed. Is she happy now?
She's happily married and living a normal existence. And God has blessed us. And I would hope He would bless all of the other parents.
I'd like to go to Mr. Kelly now, and because I know you do a lot of that kind of work.
Yes, I do.
And I'd like to know how you do it and how you got into it.
Well, I don't think anyone planned when I grow up I'm going to be a deprogramming.
Right.
Sort of phase into it somehow. I'm an investigator right now, a licensed private investigator in several states, and I was originally drawn to working with the cult situation from an investigative standpoint on such basic issues as, before I was involved in the mind control aspect of it, as to where the money goes, fraudulent solicitation with all the groups and things of this nature. And one step led to another. In talking to kids that have come out, they provided a tremendous source of intelligence and information about what they had done in the group. And from that, working with the young people and so forth, I was drawn into deprogramming.
Fascinating. Have you found that most of them are brainwashed?
Well, it depends upon what you define as brainwashed. I find that a harsh term, but it's about the only acceptable term. They go through a complete 180-degree change in their values, and not just values that they're moving for a more ethical life, while the facade is that they're moving for a more ethical, godly life. They'll go out in the streets and literally prostitute themselves to get money on any fraudulent way that they possibly can.
How do you deprogram them from that sort of attitude and state of mind to going back to what you call their normal or what they thought about in the past?
Well, there's a misconception with deprogramming. There's two misconceptions. One, that deprogramming is extremely harsh, and it entails beating, keeping them up, drugging, and so forth.
Would you stop shuffling through the pages, please, just while he's talking, because it's distracting. Thank you.
They have learned this in the various groups. They're told that this will happen to them, and we find that this is a very useful technique because it doesn't happen. Deprogramming is really just talking to people, breaking through initially and then talking. Usually we start on a factual vein. Did you know this about the group? And then we document it.
I see.
And this opens the door. And I found that the documentation of all the horror stories or whatever you want to put it about the group only opens the door. And that allows the person to step out and view the group in a different perspective. And then they start talking with other people from Krishna or from Moon or from any of the other groups. And they see the comparisons, the similarities, and the
Have you ever taken any drastic steps like kidnapping?
Well, once again, it depends upon your definition of kidnapping. I prefer to call it rescuing. Yes, I have physically rescued people.
You have?
It's unfortunate. It's
Does that bother you at all that it could be sort of you could be accused of an illegal maneuver there?
Yes, and it bothers me more. There's several people that are doing it, and I can't say it bothers me more than it bothers the other people involved in it, but I have a lot to lose. The licenses that I have, which is my ultimate career, what supports my family, a serious motor vehicle violation, my licenses would be pulled, and that would be my career down the drain.
Yes.
And let alone be charged for unlawful imprisonment or kidnapping. So there is a lot to lose, but there's no alternative sometimes.
I would imagine someone like David could turn to you and say, you say we're brainwashed, but you're doing the same thing. In effect, when you rescue, as you say, these boys and girls, and you put them through a program to as you say, deprogramize them, that you, in a sense, are brainwashing them back to what they were. I would imagine that's what you would say, that it's the definition, again, of brainwashing.
Well, I think in answer to that, once again, the factual basis is what opens them up. And then they have the ability to step back and look at what they were doing, look at the group in a new light. And then they can pick up their lives and do whatever they want to do. If they want to ultimately go back to the group, I've said this to almost everybody I've worked with. Ultimately, if you want to go back, I'll buy you the plane ticket. And people sometimes, one other comment on that, people sometimes of Jewish faith come out, they take up Christianity, or vice versa. And whatever they do with their life then is up to them.
Let's talk to David about his day as a Hare Krishna member of the society. What kind of a day do you have? What is it all about?
Well, you're asking me to go into a personal explanation. I was just wondering perhaps I could answer some of these points that have been brought up.
Yes. And then we'd like to hear about
I can speak
your life, yes.
I don't consider myself brainwashed, obviously. I'm 28 years old. I have a college education. I have a wife and a family, and I wouldn't take the responsibility for what I'm doing, not only for myself, but my wife and my child, whom I love, just like this gentleman loves his children, and so forth. But I think the real issue is here a question of the fundamental values on which our country was built, which obviously is religious freedom, and which obviously is being denied to members of the Hare Krishna movement in this case, simply because this particular method of worshiping God happens to be something that people of this country do not yet understand. Now, I will differ very strongly with Mr. Kelly's description of their so-called methods of deprogramming. I think the most famous personality in this area is Mr. Ted Patrick, who...
Before you go to that, may I ask you just one brief question, because we have to go to a commercial in a second, but that is, do you feel that you have freedom in your religion? Do the rules say that you cannot move back and forth to your home, go where you want to go? In other words, what about freedom within your...
I think this gentleman here has pretty well testified to that fact himself. His daughter obviously had correspondence with them and came to visit them and so forth.
Are you free to come and go anywhere
Perfectly free to do whatever I want.
Can you live anywhere you want to live?
Live wherever I want.
You have complete freedom.
Complete freedom.
Complete religious freedom.
And this whole thing is false propaganda being established by these people, because the issue is when the next door neighbor says, Mr. So-and-so, what is Johnny or Susie doing now? He has to say, well, they're a Hare Krishna. They're not a doctor or a lawyer.
All right.
That's the real issue.
We'll get right back to what you're saying in just a moment. Jeremiah Gutman, the ACLU attorney defending the Krishna Society and leaders against the charges of brainwashing. Before we talk to you, sir, we'd like to get back to David because I had asked him earlier to describe his life, and I don't believe we have time maybe to go into a full day, but I would like you to tell me one thing about your life which I know about and perhaps am prejudiced about, and I admit that before I tell it to you, and that is that it bothers me that you beg. It bothers me that as a human being, and I have a right to my opinion, even though I'm hostess of the show, and I'd like to stay neutral. But I have to tell you what bothers me. The begging, the hawking, the going out in the street, and not working, not producing. Why did you choose that route instead of going off, if you had these ideas, why didn't you be a social worker? We have a great need in our ghettos, in Harlem and other areas. But why beg?
We're not begging. And I don't know. I honestly do not know where people get this
I see you all the time on the streets begging.
But it's a distortion. And
why? I see you. I see you with my eyes.
No. Do you see these books also? Have you seen these?
Yes, I know you
all
sell
right.
food and books.
No, we're not selling food and books. We are distributing spiritual knowledge in the form of these books. You see the quality of these books.
No, I haven't seen the quality.
All right. These books are of the highest quality. Obviously, they cost money to print. Mm-hmm. We are distributing these books. This is our process. We distribute these books which contain spiritual knowledge. This man has admitted that we did not seek out his daughter. His daughter, looking for answers to certain questions that were on her mind, sought us out because our philosophy in these great books, containing the highest philosophy on this planet, will give people these answers. So we do not go out to beg. We go out and we are distributing these books. We ask for a contribution to cover the printing costs of the books. That is the extent of our activities. And you'll never see a Hare Krishna. And we wish to distinguish ourselves from other groups who do go out simply for money. Our business is distribute these books.
One comment or one observation on that?
Yes.
It's happened to me, and I know it's happened to many people that could come forth. Recently in the Philadelphia airport, I had a Hare Krishna girl approach me, and she had a pre-printed card, laminated, which I read the card, and explained that she was a deaf mute. And she was a student teacher and please contribute for her education. And I spoke with her, I kept talking to her for a few minutes, and asked her how much of a donation she wanted, and she said $2.
What happens to this money?
That wasn't a member of our organization.
Does the money go?
That was not a member of Hare Krishna.
She said that she was after she was.
I would like to find out about. I would like to find out where the money goes. But Mr. Gutman, we would like to talk to you for a moment and about the brainwashing charges because they're serious. And let's hear.
Sure they are.
Yes, let's hear about that.
Well, I don't know what brainwashing means. To me, the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States means that anyone who has an idea, whether you like it or not, whether it's a popular idea or not, whether it fits into the general pattern of our culture or not, has an absolute right to attempt to persuade others of the correctness of that idea. And that can be done orally, it can be done in writing. It can be done by any lawful means. And to use pejorative terms like brainwashing for what is religious proselytizing is to convert all evangelical activity into something illegal and dirty. Every missionary is engaged in brainwashing. Every Sunday school teacher is engaged in brainwashing if the activity of the people in the Hare Krishna Society is also brainwashing.
But the Baptist Church and the Presbyterian Church and the Catholic Church, they do not, and the Jewish temples, they don't send their people out in the street to huckster and to beg and to hawk for money.
Huckster is your word. If selling books in the street or attempting to distribute books and solicit contributions for them is brainwashing, then
I don't think they refer to that as brainwashing, but it seems to be there's a great deal of pressure going on between the organization and the child and the parent.
Well, the right of people to distribute leaflets or hard-covered books.
Do you think the parent has the right to try to save their child or rescue their child if they feel that they need to? If you rescue...
The parent has the same right that the church does, or the temple does, to attempt to convince the child by lawful means of what the parent thinks is the error of the child's ways. But the lawfulness is the key to it. Mr. Kelly has just admitted that he regrets that sometimes he has to resort to actions which might result in a conviction which would take away his livelihood. Well, that's taking the law into your own hands. That's anarchy.
I think what you're saying is that the Krishna society operates within the law.
Of course it does.
What he's saying is that when does a parent have the right to intervene? When does a parent have a right to say, certainly a parent has a right to say, I'm going to save my child because there's a car coming and he's 21 years of age, but still I have the right to pull him off the street.
Correct.
So that he will not be bodily injured. Well, there's a threat to be psychologically injured.
Adherence to an alien idea is not an oncoming car. If that were the case, then we would still believe the same things that the people in the caves believe.
Is there a psychological
I'd like to
damage
say
here?
something about that.
I'm not in a position to make that judgment. I doubt it. I myself do not believe in the efficacy of any organized religion. My clients, the Hare Krishna Temple, may be shocked to learn this. I do not believe in God. I do not believe in the efficacy of any.
It's a bad note to go out on, but we must, because I'm glad your daughter is well and happy. David, I wish for you a happy and productive life. Thank you for the good work you're doing with parents. I'm all for you. Keep it up. And thank you for explaining the legalities of this.
I hope
very
Mr. Kelly
interesting.
does not keep the
And
bad
thank
work
all
he's
of
doing.
you, and we'll be back tomorrow.